All right, we're going to be taking you live to the Human Rights Commission that's currently doing hearings on load reduction. And on your screen is the Minister of Electricity, Dr. Kgosientsho, Ramokgopa, who's currently testifying at that HRC on load reduction. Let's listen in.
Electricity units that can help them to have electricity uninterrupted for 30 days in a month. And that talks to the affordability. So there's the 8 million that are not in the room because they just don't have electricity. I have not quantified this number, but it's a substantial number of households that can afford electricity. They are not in the room because the conversation is not about affordability, it's around load reduction. So I'm really trying to crystallize the nature of the conversation, that when we talk about the relationship between load reduction and the quality of life, and the fact that it erodes, if you like, the human rights of those that are subjected to load reduction. Don't forget the 8 million, don't forget those that cannot afford. So as an engineer, we are trained that you spend a lot of time framing the problem statement. So what is it that I'm trying to solve? And you'll see that solving the problem is relatively easy. So I thought I must take time to provide that framing. Now let me explain to you what is it that we are doing. So I'm sure the next logical question will ask me, so you come here, you say there's 1.6 million people. What are you doing to connect them? You come here and tell us that there's so many people that cannot afford. What are you doing to assist them? You come here, you tell us there's load reduction is a function of illegal connections. It's an important point I'm making. It has no relationship with payment levels. It's myself speaking. I know I've got a very unique voice. Thanks for reminding me that, okay, at least, yeah. So, Chair, what is it that we are doing? So the first one is to ensure that there's grid expansion. So grid expansion simply means that the wires that you see and the substations and all of, they are able to reach your far remote areas. But the problem with that approach is that it's very expensive. So that 4 billion rands that I say it's an allocation we get per annum is going to be significantly insufficient because the bulk of that money will be spent in building the lines and the transformers to get it to poor households. So we do that, especially in urban areas, because it's more efficient to do it. But when we go to rural areas, we are doing what we call off-grid solutions. When I started, I said technology has advanced. You can do the behind-the-meter intervention. So essentially, you are not connected to the ESCOM infrastructure, the municipal infrastructure. You can have a solar, combine it with battery, a hybrid model, and you are able to provide to this house. We have started already. ESCOM will tell you the areas that they've started. The most recent one, which will be electrifying, the project they started is in the Madimbo and Mavete villages in Musina. We'll be doing the same in Elias Mutsualedi, Maruleng, Tabazimbi. We finished with the provincial government and those municipalities, all municipalities in Limpopo. Yesterday we were in the Free State, so we have already started Malutia Pufong, some of these interventions. We are doing with Tukologo, we'll do with Tolopili, we'll do with Mangaung. You mentioned them. So the point I'm making is that we have already started with these solutions. And I'm going to link them back on the question that we are discussing. And the core of that is to ensure that there's active partnering with municipalities and also engagement with the communities so that we come with interventions that are fit for purpose. What do I mean by that? A technology intervention that we will make in Soweto because of its density and the absence of land will be different from the one you'll make in Ramokgopa, my village. Huge spaces of land, the quality of the sun is right, the consumption levels are not necessarily the same as the ones here. So the intervention, you don't need backbone infrastructure. You can make this off-grid interventions. And then we must resolve the funding and financing. 4 billion per annum, not sufficient. What we are doing, we are putting together an outfit at the DBSA, will incubate it there. Our 4 billion is seed capital, will crowd in private sector investments, especially the funding that is directed to what we call the just energy transition. The major powers have pledged $12.9 billion US. We think we can tap into that and ensure that we are able to achieve a universal access. For those villages where there's already a municipal intervention, ESCOM intervention, for us to be able to cover everyone, we need to have sight of you. We need to know of you, and the best way of doing that is when you are consuming in a legal manner. So if you are bypassing, you are a zero buyer, ESCOM will explain what that zero buyer means. There are people who, for the past 12 months, they've never purchased electricity. We just ran a campaign, I'm sure you'd have seen it on national media. 2.1 million customers are bypassing. So these are people who are consuming illegally. They've never purchased electricity, a unit of electricity in the past 12 months, and yet they are consuming, costing ESCOM upwards of 3 billion rands per month. And I'll come to the numbers with regards to ESCOM and municipalities and see what the impact of this is. And then we went on an aggressive drive. 400,000 of them came and said, we apologize, please legalize us. You are going to find that there is a relationship between the density, the concentration of those that are bypassing, and the issues of load reduction. What is the big point I'm making? The biggest casualties of load reduction is those that are paying. So you'll have an area, a street that is supplied from this transformer. The Marukanis are paying. Ramokgopa has got dwellers in the backyard, dwellers, bypasses, provides electricity for them. They draw from his own connection, collects rental. That rental is also in lieu of the fact that electricity is provided. But when the municipality did their computation, all they knew is that we were providing for 10 households. Suddenly with the Ramokgopa, because of the dwellings, it's 20 households. That capacity, that transformer can't carry the weight. And what do municipalities and ESCOM do? They choose to protect the asset and protect the users and the people in that vicinity. If it explodes, he goes to prison for 4 months. That's the occupational act. And they'll ask him the question, so people died, you knew that there was overload, you took no action. So all they do to protect the asset, they discontinue the provision of electricity. But what that does is, because there is no technical instrument to isolate Ramokgopa that we know is bypassing from Marokani, because they draw from the same infrastructure. When we switch off that transformer, everyone is affected. Who's the casualty? It's not me. Who's benefiting illegally from people who are connecting? It's Marokani is paying on a monthly basis. Guess what? Very few of those are in the commission to come and say, but collateral damage. Is Ramokgopa who's responsible for this? And in some instances has resulted in friction between communities. And that's something that the team, we're working on to resolve it.
And that is the Minister of Electricity, Dr. Kgosientsho Ramokgopa, testifying at the Human Rights Commission. They're currently running an inquiry looking at the impact of load reduction. So far, the Department of Health has given a testimony. Members of the communities have also given their testimony.